read that policy through in a microsecond, and now we're good to go. So thank you all for being here today. We're going to talk about using Navigate alerts to refer students to schools and colleges and units for advising, and also for most of us for major declaration or major changes. And so we'll talk about both of those things. We'll be presenting today with our resident Navigate experts, Jeremy and Brennan, who will be showing you some stuff in a little bit. But I want to start with rationale. So we need a way to connect students, whether they're coming from PathwayAdvising or the College of General Studies or from your programs, thinking about other programs. We need a way to connect them with advising units. We needed this before the pandemic, but we particularly need it now when we can't just send a student to, go over to Lubar Hall or find your way to Engelman. So we have 13 schools and colleges, several more advising units, all working with undergraduate students and working, speaking from PathwayAdvising's point, remembering the process for a student to request a meeting with an advisor or to change their major becomes really difficult when you're talking about that many different units and processes and policies. So this gives us a kind of single source solution to do that will be common across campus. So I think this will be really helpful. It's also something that requires us to be to do more outreach to students rather than waiting for them to turn up on our physical or virtual doorsteps. So I think that's a positive move too. That doesn't prevent students from seeking us out, but it allows us to kind of go out and knock on their doors and windows to get them to do what we need them to do, which is meet with us and start the process of declaring a major, perhaps. I probably don't need to explain to you why it's important that students be able to meet advisors in other units, but I want to do that anyway, particularly from the lens of the College of General Studies. For our associate students, meeting with a main campus advisor while they're still pursuing their associates is really important. According to the Community College Research Center at Columbia University, 80% of students that start a 2-year program intend to continue on into a 4-year program, but nationally only a quarter do, only 25% do. That lifts up to about 40% if a 2-year student meets with someone at a 4-year campus during their first year. So that's one thing that we really want to happen, is have students, while they're in their first year of a 2-year program, talk with someone in the 4-year program, so they start aligning those two programs. And then for undecided students, of course, meeting with other advisors is part of the exploration that we want them to do, and it's part of their decision-making on centering on an advisor. For PathwayAdvising, we want to keep students through the first semester to be sure that they have a decent GPA when they leave us, and to balance equity between those students that are told they have to be with us by their admission process, the students that are coming in through the route of legacy AOC that don't meet requirements for other schools and colleges. We want to keep the practice the same with our undecided students as with those students. So that's why we want to be sure they have a strong GPA before they officially switch to or declare into your schools and colleges. So this Navigate alert process is going to help us issue those alerts to the receiving schools and colleges, and then the schools and colleges will kind of triage those alerts. You can have your own process in terms of what you require for students in terms of reaching out to them. You can send them a Navigate invite to meet with you. You can send them an email. That kind of part of how you do that outreach will be largely up to you, but we'll see from Brennan and Jeremy how that will be done So I think with that, I can kick it over to Brennan to show us how to issue an alert. And then I will probably chime in as needed as we move along. So Brennan, why don't you take it away from me?
All right, so you guys should be able to see navigate, and you should see the fake student Rachel pause. So what I'm going to show you how to do is issue an alert, and this alert will open a case to walk us through this process. So from the student's home screen, you can hit issue an alert. You can also do this from your own home screen. In this case, let's say that this student is interested in receiving or in moving over to the School of Education. So if you start typing in education, it'll pull up any of them that are relevant for these cases. So we want to do student ready to declare in School of Education. And then this is where we'll put in any additional comments. So Brian, did you want to comment on what sort of expectations you might like to see in terms of the comments that are put in here, or do you want to talk about that later?
Yeah, I can talk about that now. What I think would be helpful is any information that someone could use to triage this without having to pull a transcript. So I know, for example, LNS differentiates which advisors a student goes to, whether they're a first-year student or a continuing second, third-year student. So entering in this student is new freshman fall 20, or this student's a sophomore who started in 2019, something like that. If there's a particular major that the student wants to declare, so if for the School of Education, that would be, let's say the student's interested in exceptional ed or American Sign Language, you might note those things. Then if it's a CGS student, you might also want to indicate when that student intends to transfer. So that wouldn't necessarily be the case in this ready to declare situation, but if it were referring for advising, which was the other option that appeared when Brennan showed education, you might indicate, oh, this student intends to start with your program in fall of 2022. So again, kind of any information that would help triage that student for outreach. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. So yeah, so including that information there, and then from here you just hit submit. And as the advisor then that has done this, you've essentially done your part, and you'll be able to check back up on that case in a different way, and we'll show you that in a little bit. From here on the back end, what's happening is these students are being referred to the folks. Can you see the Navigate spreadsheet, Brian?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry. So this is who these referrals are going to. So we got these from, I believe, ASALC provided these. So this first column of emails is the first set of folks that this will be going to for triage. So in this case, for School of Education, it's going to their front desk account. So on their side, the School of Education general email will have received a notification that looks very similar to the appointment notifications that you all receive or the at-risk notifications that you receive for students. So they'd receive that to their UWM email inbox, but then also here in the messages. From there, they can go to the cases locate icon. And then it should load right here. The first case for them is Rachel Pause. So they're able to see that it was open today and that it's for us. From here, you'll just hit manage case. And then this is where you'd reassign it. So School of Education Advising can then take themselves off of the advisor here and then issue it to the appropriate advisor. They can hit save changes. And then you can also add a comment on here. So let's say the triage happened, it's going to Nikki, and then you just want to let Nikki know what you've done for the student. Any pieces that might be relevant for that advisor based on your internal workflow. From there, if it's Nikki's responsibility to do the processing or whoever's it's assigned to, you can hit close case. And from here, there's some automated reasons that you can select for this. And so these are the reasons for any case. So some of them are definitely not relevant. But in this case, you'd say that this, once you're all wrapped up, you'd say the student proceeded into program and or plan code, and then any comments. So realistically, this is the information that the issuing advisor might need to know that they're formally taken off their case. So probably including the date that this was accomplished and any other communication that you've done with students. Brian, was there additional information that you'd like to see in the case resolution comment?
No, I think there's no additional comments necessary in this case unless there was some reason, some local reason to do that. We would also see, the student would be changed in pause and in navigate. If they've come in for advising, there'd be, appointments and so forth. So there's kind of, this is essentially double entry, if I can reach back to my accounting advisor days, but still useful because it sends a notification to the referrer.
Yep, so then upon closing, you're able to see the whole resolution, and that ding was letting me know that this KISS has been closed. And so I would have gotten an email notification letting me know that the student is wrapped up and good to go. If you're the advisor that issued the alert, you also can go to your own cases from your homepage and see any of the alerts that are issued here, just appropriate, filtering appropriately. You can also search for that student and then see under their history and click Manage Case to see where students are at within the case. Anything else you wanted me to show, Brian?
No, I don't think so. I think it might be helpful for folks to see the sort of email that comes through that either indicates that there is a case or that that a case is closed. But I think that's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, I can show that. So you should see my inbox here. So the case resolution email will look like this. So it'll say case closed, have the student's information, the initial alert reason when it was issued, and then the outcome here. It's not going to include any of the comments within the email, but you'll be able to go into Navigate to see any of those additional pieces. And so the issued alert will look essentially the same as well. Obviously, just won't include any of the closed information.
So this is changed in Navigate only and not in pause. Am I not understanding that right? Could you clarify
correct.
That for me, please?
So this is just a notification, a communication link. You'd still manually need to do the same processes that you have done in terms of switching a student's program plan advisor in pause.
Okay.
Other questions, or Jeremy, if you have anything to add?
The only thing I'll add is I'm dropping a screenshot version of a document that captures the steps along the way in the chat, so you have that available in addition to the video.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions or cases or hypotheticals from folks that we could talk about?
Yeah, I guess from the CGS side of things, sorry, Katie.
Yeah.
The CGS side of things, so at what point should we be doing this and how often should we be doing this, right? So like every semester, just the first semester they indicate, do we have a goal of what we want that to look like?
I think partly that comes from CGS's own preferences in terms of how you want to go about advising. I think certainly suggesting that students, if you're working with a student who's completing a 2-year degree, they want to go on to major in education and complete a 4-year degree, that the earliest that you can let education know, the better. The sooner they can connect with that student as well, the better. Whether or not that has to continue to happen every semester, that's probably something that would be a more student specific issue, I guess.
And I'll jump in and just say that, I would say that it's similar to how when we were located in person, you're giving the business card or saying, here's the link that you're sending to Katie Knack in College of Nursing or another advisor in any other school or college. So whenever, I'm guessing you might do that several times with one student because they don't follow up, but this I think is a one and done unless they change, from nursing to health sciences or something like that. And that allows for Katie and the team over in nursing or any other school college unit to kind of track those students that are most interested in their programs, and especially those that are doing the recruiting within CGS. So I would say one time is all that's needed, and that would be located in somewhere within the Navigate for others to see, right, Brian or Brennan? How does that, I guess, how do they know if the student's already been referred?
Well, there'd certainly be a Navigate note from that interaction before. So you know, that would be there. We wouldn't have they wouldn't be part of the Navigate team, although I suppose an education advisor could add themselves possibly through Navigate as a part of the support team for the student.
And then I guess the other question would be, is there guidance or kind of expectation of what the schools and colleges, how they handle those CGS referrals? You know, are they then immediately trying to recruit them? Are they providing them with a link to follow along? Like, what does that look like? Is that just left up to each school and college? Is there some type of standardized format?
I guess I'd defer to Courtney on that.
Well, so I can't dictate what the other schools and colleges, how they handle that. I would suggest, I think, and I believe that we've already had some conversations about that, and we got the buy-in from those that are in similar roles, like department heads, unit heads, who oversee advisors and coaches that might receive these. And so, you know, the expectation really is that, you know, you follow up with these students as just like you would if a student sent you an email from CGS or from another school, from Letters in Science or PathwayAdvising, to let them know that you're just as interested in them as they are in you. And this is a way for us to retain our students internally. You know, it's a great for Pathway and CGS, but we know that there's a lot of internal movement as well. We have students that may come from LNS or Pathway to CGS, and I'm sure there's students that switch schools and colleges throughout the year just based on our students changing their majors several times. We all know ourselves and others who've done that. So, you know, just we know it's an ask to have you reaching out to these students, and you might receive more of them as a result of this new process. But the hope is that it's streamlining it so that all students who have needs are getting those addressed by way of some documentation within Navigate that helps us to kind of track those. And we, you know, I believe that we'll have a way to pull some of that after a semester or two, where we can say this is how many students we were able to reach out to as a result of the tags in Navigate.
And I should also note, while we're talking about CGS, that the major change process that this incorporates, or the major declaration process that this incorporates, does not work for the actual change of CGS students into a four-year program, because there is a career change involved, because financial aid has to be aware if there is an aid package involved. So that will continue to follow the current process, although we hope to be able to continue to streamline and improve that process as well. I know Katie's been waiting patiently with a hand raised, and then there's a couple of questions in chat that I'll get to after Katie.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify, because I was, didn't realize this is a thing. And I was looking at the cases for specifically with the college and nursing. So my understanding is any cases immediately get deferred to the general office email, and then whoever's in charge of that email will.
Right, whatever email has been established here at the outset with Brennan, that's coded into that when the alert goes to that address. So I don't remember offhand what that address is for nursing, but then whoever's monitoring that address is then has to would further triage. If it's a new student, with the right last name, it would go to you or Donna. And that that we can adjust what email that goes to. Brennan can help with that if it needs to be a different email address.
Yeah, it looks like it goes to our front office right now, which is great. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something potentially that would slip through the cracks. That I want to make sure that if there are any of these cases opened up, that they are addressed. So, but great. Just wanted to double check things.
Yeah. And then Kate asked, could this be used to set up informational appointments, pre-transfer, and change of major appointments? Yes, both of those are the case. There's two different alert reasons. One is student would essentially benefit from advising from health sciences, and the second is student ready to declare in health sciences. So we could, if a student's just looking for information or they're in their first semester and maybe planning on that major, we would use we would refer for advising. And then if that student finishes the semester well and in January is ready to declare kinesiology, we can use the same process to say that student's ready to declare with you. And then that might be different outreach from health sciences to that student. And Dan asked to clarify the process for pre-professional declaration. Yeah, so the College of Letters and Sciences, if you're not already aware, has some awesome functionality on their academic departmental websites to allow students to go at 3 in the morning, whenever they like. They can declare English as their major or psychology as their major, and students can still continue to do that. They don't have that process in place for pre-professional. So we will be using this for, if an undecided student says wants to be pre-law or pre-occupational therapy, we'll be using this same alert process to refer them for advising to be able to add those pre-professional notations as well. I would also say that one of the things that you can refer students to is PathwayAdvising. So if you have a first semester student that was admitted to you because they were going to major in nursing, or they were going to be a rocket scientist, and then they decide in their first semester that I'm not really sure now what I want to do, you can refer them back to us, and we could potentially switch them to undecided. The work that we do in PathwayAdvising is mainly focused on university-wide requirements. So if a student's too far in their credit accumulation for us to be much help to them, we'll still talk to them and certainly refer them to CPARC and give some information. We probably won't switch them onto our caseloads, but they can certainly be referred to us as well as us referring them to you. Gabby asked just to confirm this process is only for CGS and Pathway advisors to utilize, correct? And no, that is not the case. Anybody can use these alerts. I think from a coaching perspective, it might be, I think we want to probably think further about whether a coach is referring someone to advisors or whether advisors are referring to advisors. But in terms of folks in advising roles, certainly wherever they are, if a student wants to switch from social welfare into business, this would be a way to be able to manage those student situations as well. Gabby, I'm not sure if that hand was before your question, but if you want to ask something, feel free.
Yeah, thanks. I just threw it up there just to make sure that I'm understanding, because I'm looking at the document that Jeremy shared, and it indicates that it would be either CGS or Pathway Advisor, like what that action step would be. So if I'm meeting with a student who's in Pathways, and I guess I'm referring specifically to I know we can use the alerts, that function is very useful, but I'm referring specifically to like the declaration of major alert. Like if a student is meeting with me in the RHC and they're a Pathway student, I would not be indicating the alert to say LNS that student is ready to declare psychology.
Right.
Correct? That's not in my purview.
That in that case, if you're working with a Pathway student as a coach, you probably want the advisor to do that, the advisor of record to do that. If you're working with an LNS student as an advisor, then you certainly could. So I think it would be for your office in particular, because you have that kind of dual role. It's going to depend upon the student and the situation.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I guess my initial question, I was referring specifically to the internal transfer process alert.
Yeah.
That we would use it for our LNS advisees, but for our larger role as the success coordinators, we would not utilize this because we are not the academic advisor. I just wanted to make that really clear so that I understand.
I mean, that would be my recommendation at this particular moment in time. Yeah. There are hands from Roxanne and Deanna. Roxanne, why don't you, since you're first on my list, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, so I'm a CGS advisor, and I'm just going to share what I think all of the CGS advisors would put into the additional comments when we do these alerts about a student being interested in, say, the College of Health Sciences. If we're aware that the student is also thinking of going to Whitewater or Carroll or Madison, we would put that in, because we all know the competition for getting students and retaining students over the next few years is going to be out of control, and we all need to be mindful of how Madison is changing their transfer process to ensure they have enrollment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and you know, we at least as far as I know, the last I heard, the 2-year students are not presumed to have to continue in the 4-year program with which they're affiliated. So they can be recruited from any other UW system school, at least as far as I know. So I think that is helpful information for our advisors to know. Not that we're necessarily wanted to think of ourselves as trying to offer the best deal to the student or what have you, but certainly it adds some helpful context. Deanna.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to confirm that the alerts that LNS gets is going directly to the LNS advising email, because recently I've been getting alerts to my personal email as well as the LNS advising. So I just want to confirm that it's just going to the LNS advising email.
As far as I know, we have LNS advising. Brennan can confirm, I'm sure, coded into Navigate.
Correct.
So I'm not sure how or why it would be forwarding to your personal
forwarding. I've been copied on it as well. So I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that it just goes to LNS advising opposed to myself, my personal email, and LNS advising.
I'll double check that real quick.
Yeah. Thank you.
And while Brent's looking at that, I'll say, you know, there is likely to be some growing pains / learning curve here. I know earlier this week, Deanna and LNS got an alert for a student interested in, I think it was a business program, and whether that happens because LNS and LUBAR are right next to each other in a very small drop-down list, or whether that's a misunderstanding. Part of this, because we're referring on majors to schools and colleges, also presumes some institutional knowledge about what school and college a major is affiliated with. So, you know, there are some ways, easy ways to make errors, and so just please bear with us as we. As this becomes more of a point of practice for us. And it looks like, Tiana, you've got a response there from Brennan in the chat. Other questions or hypotheticals or areas of uncertainty or unclarity? So I talked with the Pathway Advising staff about this earlier this week, and I know that they've begun to issue some alerts, and now that we've had training, I would expect more to come through. So thankfully, this won't be one of those trainings that you attend and then won't have any actual work related to the training to do. You will probably see in your inboxes, particularly if you're responsible for the receiving email triage, some ways to put your current theoretical knowledge into practice very soon, if not already. And if there's no other questions, comments, theories, complaints.
I have, sorry, Brian, I have a question.
Okay.
So I manage our CHS info email.
Yeah.
And I got one the other day. I think it came from a professor, so it was nice. But is there a way to log in to navigate as CHS info as that email to manage these things, or is it I guess, how does that work?
Yeah,
do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think that's a good question for Brandon.
It's most likely your front desk account, but I can double check the email addresses on there for you. And if it's not your front desk account, we can get a password set up for you.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Did I miss a hand? Alejandra.
Quick question. I was just going to ask, so is someone going to be managing and making sure that cases are closed? I can just see people forgetting to close cases.
Yeah, I would say the case closed is a best practice. I think it's to all of our benefit to get in the habit of that. If the case doesn't close, there are kind of supplemental things that can indicate that the work was done anyway, right? If the student is now not a business student but a social welfare student, then you know that some change has been made. If there is an appointment with an advisor in that other unit, you know there's been some reach out. If a case is not closed and there's no other evidence, then there's more kind of following up. I think it's to everyone's benefit to set in place an expectation that you close cases, just because that closes the communication loop as well, and we're all clear. And it means that we have less kind of checking to do and so forth. You get an email that says it's resolved, and it's resolved. Andrea asks if there's a collective expectation regarding the length of time to reach out to the student. It would be nice to let students know that they will hear from the unit within a week. Yeah, I think something like a business week makes sense. That doesn't necessarily mean that the student has to meet with an advisor within that week, or that their major change has to be made within a week, but the outreach to a student, which may be, hey, here's some times I'm available 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, might be that, that's just as much and just as useful as outreach as anything else. So I would agree that a week of time, but also that expectation would be set by your supervisor, not by me. Ali, is that a new hand or an old hand that I'm seeing?
Old, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Okay, last chance gas for asking a question, issuing a complaint. I would like to issue a compliment to Brennan, who has been really helpful in setting this up, and Jeremy as well. This is something that our office really needs. I think CGS really needs, and I think all of you, once you kind of get in this practice, will be really pleased with how much you're able to connect students that want to switch out of your programs, you'll be able to do that. So thank you, Brennan. Jenny, you have a hand up.
Yeah, dumb question. Is it just schools and colleges, or how is there a list of what is listed in Navigate? So we know like which ones we're typing in for the search bar, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is a list, but yeah, right now it's just schools and colleges, so I don't think we've developed anything for honors or athletics or anything yet, although we certainly could. But right now, I think it's the 13 schools and colleges.
Okay.
And that list is scrollable as well. I just typed it in because it's easier to find them all together then.
Yep. All right, anything else today? Well, thanks everybody. If you have feedback as this rolls out and as you start to work with it, certainly share that with Brennan and myself and Jeremy if it's a functional issue or if it's just a process issue or question, a corner case that we haven't considered. This will be a bit of a work in progress until we perfect it. So thank you for all that you're doing for our students and for each other. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks,
Brian.
Thanks.